Returning to study later in life has been both exciting and honestly quite challenging at times. I quickly realized that the way I had studied in the past simply wasn't working for me anymore. Long sessions, too much information, trying to force everything into my brain at once. And the harder I tried, the harder it seemed to become. But one thing I've learned over the years as a Westie owner is there's nearly always a solution to be found. The interesting thing was, while studying canine behavior, I started noticing something. The way dogs learn seems very different. Dogs don't sit for hours trying to absorb huge amounts of information. Learning tends to happen through repetition, short sessions, consistency, environment, emotional state, and calmness. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized maybe I needed to approach my own learning in this way. That's when I discovered something called the Feynman technique, a learning method based around simplifying information and explaining it in a way that's easier to understand and remember. And strangely enough, the more I explored it, the more it seemed to mirror many of the very things I was already learning about canine behavior. So in this video, I want to share the study breakthrough I didn't expect and how my dogs may have helped me understand learning in a completely different way. What I found interesting about the Feynman technique is that it's actually built around four very simple core steps. The first is understanding the subject enough that you can explain it simply. The second is identifying the gaps in your understanding. The third is simplifying and organizing the information into something clearer and easier to remember. And the fourth is repetition and reviewing it regularly until it starts to stick naturally. Now, the thing for me was, without fully realizing it at first, I'd already started adapting these ideas into my own way of learning, because we all learn differently. So instead of trying to study in one big overwhelming block, I started breaking things down into smaller, calmer, more manageable pieces. For each workbook, I began creating little memory ditties to help key ideas stick in my mind, almost like turning information into rhythm and repetition. I also started building a quick recall structure, simple bite-sized prompts that help me reconnect the links more quickly. Then I created revision sheets and summaries, breaking larger topics into something easier to understand in real-life terms. And honestly, the more I started learning this way, the more natural it began to feel. Not forced learning, but meaningful learning. And strangely enough, the more I looked at it, the more it reminded me how my own Westies learn, not through pressure, but through repetition, consistency, calmness, and making the learning experience fun and easier to process. So I thought I'd share a small example of one of the little study ditties I've been creating along the way. In week 1, we meet Pavlov and his dog, where one little pairing can change the job. A bell meant food, the brain made the link. Dogs are always learning more than we think. Dogs are learning all the time through every picture, place, and sign. If fear spreads wide, the world gets small. So choose the villain, protect it all. Consent builds trust, and trust takes time. So keep the villain clear when welfare's on the line. Bring it out last, put it away first. Protect the picture, protect the trust. What the dog feels, the brain records, through sights and smells, far faster than words. One thing predicts another, then another joins the chain. Dogs don't just learn the moment, they learn what comes again. Tiny triggers fill the cup. Drop by drop, the stress builds up. By the time the big thing's here, the brain is already full of fear. One little cue can wear two faces, joy in one, fear in other places. When emotions overlap and blend, the struggle's harder to untangle in the end. So that's the breakthrough I didn't expect. Not some magical shortcut, and not suddenly becoming an expert overnight. Just the realization that maybe learning doesn't have to feel overwhelming or out of reach for someone like me. The more I started simplifying things, breaking them down, repeating them, creating rhythm, and approaching learning in a calmer way, the more things actually started making sense. And honestly, the strange thing is, the more I learn about canine behavior, the more I'm starting to see links everywhere. Not just in dogs, but in myself too. Because dogs don't learn well through pressure and overwhelm. They learn through consistency, the environment, repetition, emotional state, and meaningful experiences. And maybe we're not as different as we may think. So, this is the system I'm experimenting with right now as I continue my own journey back into learning. Not perfection, not forcing it, just finding a way that works for me. And hopefully, by sharing parts of that journey, it may help somebody else who's struggling too, whether that's with dogs, learning, or simply starting over. I may be a bit behind, but I'm where I'm meant to be. This is my journey. And honestly, I think I'm only just beginning to join the dots. This is my world. Real life with 6 Westies and a whole load of books.